There really wasn't much mystery involved in the evolution of Kelly Gearhart, from the California colony of Atascadero's coolest guy in the world to his present status of felon in waiting. He was just wandering the same crooked path he had always been on. Gearhart made his big game-changing decision in 2004, at a moment when a confluence of fortuitous events resulted in his suddenly having $11 million in investors' money in his jeans, and nothing really to spend it on. He had long before established his impatience with truth and with honesty, so when Gearhart reached that particular fork in his life's road, it was no big stretch to take that money, other people's money, and misuse it.
I used to think he was the type of person that it really didn't matter if he was a gazillionaire, he was still just going to be old Cal.
My initial impression was basically he owns this council room.
Cal Coast News had written a story about property transfers with Kelly Gearhart, and that properties were overvalued and that some properties had been pushed between family members as they changed values on the properties. And this was in order to get more loans on the property and more people to invest.
If he then tossed a few of those dollars towards cooperative politicians and city officials to get a leg up on his business competition, where's the harm?
These type of things can crush a community and, in essence, rob it of its future.
Mike Brenler, a 30-year police veteran, was used to doing things by the book. So he was surprised when he discovered, upon becoming Atascadero's mayor in 2006, that the colony's business was being conducted in a very questionable way.
Checks and balances, they're supposed to be in place for development, but they just didn't seem to apply to Mr. Gearhart.
Gearhart was one of the hottest cooks of big real estate development deals during the early and mid-2000s in one of the most desirable living locales in the nation, amid a period when everybody, it seemed, was making easy and big money. Developers, builders, lenders, investors, and those politicians. It was a five-legged disaster waiting to happen. And the losers? Those who least expected it. The corrupt environment fueled by Gearhart's ill-gotten cash and the receptive nature of his governmental buddies set the stage for a financial disaster featuring the fleecing of retirement funds from thousands of trusting investors. And all the while, the local law looked away.
Please, you can't make it to mayor of a small town without doing some scratching somewhere, unless you are just an extremely unique person.
Well, there was one such small-town mayor, and he was unique.
I spoke to several other developers and builders, and they made it clear to me that there was not a even playing field in this town.
That when you build a consensus, you can pretty much get away with anything you want. Consensus building is what he did, and he handled each person personally and knew what each person's thing was.
Gearhart's abuse of funds entrusted to him may have gone unnoticed for a long time, but for three factors: his greed, his failure to build what he promised, and the 2008 economic bust. Early in 2008, a group of people whose money was backing a golf course and industrial park project in Paso Robles were dismayed to learn they would no longer be receiving those hefty interest checks every month. And that was when they began to learn of the deceptions of Gearhart and his primary hard money lender, Jay Miller, owner of Hearst Financial. Miller's investors would walk into his office with their money, and Gearhart would walk out with it. By this time, Miller had assigned to some of those investors a whopping 8,000% interest in the golf course property, which itself was now hugely overvalued, according to reporting on Cal Coast News, an aggressive and widely read news website. Gearhart clashed with Cal Coast News co-editor Karen Veely during her appearance on Dave Congleton's popular local radio talk show. Gearhart took to the phone to challenge her.
I remember one of the things that he contended was that a property I said was worth about $5 million had been valued at between $50 and $100 million by his appraiser. And his appraiser wasn't licensed to do the appraisals. There were a number of things, but I did get hold of a bank appraisal, and the property was actually worth $4.5 million.
A few days later, Gearhart appeared on Congleton's radio show to deny that he was facing financial disaster and to attempt discrediting Cal Coast News reporting. Gearhart's father, John, and Marion Warner were dismayed at what they heard.
And me and John just sat there and John kept looking at me, and we were both thinking, gee, Cal, this might not have been a real good idea for you to go on this show. I don't know, it was just like the more he talked, it was like, Kelly, put a sock in it, man, or something, shut up. I found it shocking. I mean, I was embarrassed for him. Sounding like a freaking mobster guy or something, I don't know. It's like,
Gearhart's expensively purchased public reputation was starting to crumble.
I don't know if it was the Citizen of the Year thing. Is that what it was? Because he actually started acting like he believed his own press.
But Gearhart's image of the moment wasn't really his biggest problem. Atascadero's Mayor Brendler was busy using his cop talents to uncover evidence of Gearhart's nefarious influence on a handful of city officials.
2 bridges that serve the Deonza Estates senior cottages, they hadn't received their proper final inspection. And that was very surprising to me, in part because you would anticipate that with such infrastructure, the city would have gone overboard in making sure it was properly finalized. The bridges naturally convey traffic and pedestrians. That's a huge safety issue. By cutting corners, I'm sure that he benefited financially, but the problem is by breaking or violating certain rules, it doesn't serve the public interest.
The realization that he was doing some of this stuff so long ago.
But in addition to learning a lot about Kelly Gearhart's activities, the mayor was learning that few others seemed to share his concerns.
Whenever I tried to, blow the whistle or look a little further into matters, I was met with great resistance, not only by the council but by the city manager.
Then he tried to interest the San Luis Obispo County District Attorney.
I was disappointed that the district attorney's office did not pursue the matter with more vigor.
Later, Mike Brendler announced that the FBI was investigating the city of Atascadero.
Now, Gearhart, Jay Miller, Atascadero city officials, and some San Luis Obispo County and state public officials are under FBI scrutiny in a wide-ranging public corruption investigation. In January, Brendler publicly challenged several Atascadero city officials to address news reports that they had accepted favors from Gearhart, while overlooking flagrant building inspection violations.
Many know that when I was on the council, I tried to alert the public that the train was about to jump the track. And yes, I blew the whistle to the law. Several of you, chiefly Wade McKinney, Tom O'Malley, and Jerry Clay, were obviously, in my opinion, running interference for Gearhart.
Brendler said he believed assertions made by Marion Warner, Gearhart's common-law stepmother.
During family visits, she said that Gearhart would boast to his father and her that the Atascadero City Councilman Tom O'Malley and Jerry Clay were his guys. View the reports and judge for yourself whether or not our community was swindled of our tax dollars, and in some cases, people's life savings, all with the complicity and/or tacit support of certain public officials.
The FBI is known for throwing a big net, and sometimes a lot of fish get caught in the net, and sometimes just a few. So I hope they do their investigation properly, and that if there is wrongdoing, that all those who engaged in it would be dealt with appropriately.